This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Cherie Ashfar worked for the Ministry of Health in Vancouver, British Columbia, and her book was inspired by day-to-day observations of abused children and adults and the need to teach children the difference between things like good secrets and bad secrets, good touch and bad touch. The name of her book, Take Care of Yourself. Now, one of the things you illustrate is a kindergarten teacher trying to initiate a discussion about private parts.
Yes, and also introducing or defining some basic concepts like good feelings, bad feelings, secrets and bad secrets, and how children need to trust their feelings when they face an uncomfortable situation, and how to assess it, and what to do about it. And also it is about the necessity of having a trusted circle to go to talk to, as well as why it is important to take action. That's the gist of it, actually.
How young should this start?
The book is targeting children of age 4 to 8, but can benefit older children as well. But mainly the focus is trusting the feeling, because in those tender ages, the analytical mind is not really developed, as such. So they can start it as soon as 4. It's not part of the regular curricula of most schools, but actually I'm partnering with this organization called childhelp.org, and they have some formal education for K to 12 grades, and depending on their ability to take care of themselves, starts with more on feeling side, and then becomes more bringing logical thinking into their tools of self-care. So it is not part of the normal education at schools in general or daycares, but they have this kind of program and they offer it to any school welcomes that. They are based in Arizona. Yes, I actually urge you to check their website out, and they have this beautiful program, very important, called Speak Up, Be Safe. And actually, they are kind of associating my book with this particular program to use it as one of their resources.
That is great. All right. So once again, it's childhelp.org. The program is Speak Up and Be Safe, where they reference Cherie's book. And in her book, there's a hotline number for kids to call if they have any questions or concerns. Thank you so much. James Hickey retired just outside Charleston, South Carolina, where he found a new passion for writing historical fiction after a long and illustrious career. The name of his book, The General and the Lady, based on a true story. Now, what I didn't realize was I know him. So our conversation went like this.
I'm a former ABC News correspondent. I retired in 2012.
You're Jim Hickey.
I am.
Oh, I've heard you forever.
Yes, you have.
Wow.
My wife and I moved here from New Jersey about 5 years ago, and I've spent my time in retirement writing novels and playing bass guitar in a classic rock band.
Oh my gosh, good for you. So this book has nothing to do with your career, right?
It has nothing at all to do with my career. It is a new interest in history and the Civil War. And then in retirement, I turned from, I guess you could say, the spoken word to the written word.
So you must be a history buff.
I am now. I was working as a volunteer at Fort Sumter here in Charleston and learned a lot about the Civil War in my duties as a volunteer guide. And I became aware of these two characters in my book, the General and the Lady. General John Fulton Reynolds, a well-admired, highly recognized Union officer in the Civil War, and his secret lover, Kate Hewitt. And I discovered their little story, and I researched it, found out to be a fascinating story. So I continued research and wrote the book about them. The story follows their relationship over a 3-year period from 1860 until 1863, when, no spoiler alert needed here because history records this event well, John Reynolds was shot and killed on the first day of the Battle of Gettysburg. And that ended, obviously, their relationship, but they had kept their relationship secret all this time for reasons that are revealed in the book. And no one knew about this secret love affair that they had going on until some medallions were discovered around his neck when his body was recovered after he was killed, shot and killed by Confederate soldiers at the Battle of Gettysburg. So this is a true story of these two people, General John Reynolds of the Union Army and Kate Hewitt, his secret lover for 3 years. And it is a romantic love affair in the middle of a time when the nation was at its worst peril, when other Americans were trying their best to destroy each other. These two people were trying their best to find love with each other.
Oh, I feel bad for his wife.
Well, they never got married. That was one of the promises that they made to each other, that they would marry once the war was over. And the cover of my book is an artist rendering done by an artist out of Gettysburg by the name of Dale Gallen. It's a rendering of John Reynolds and Kate Hewitt. He calls that painting The Last Promise. And she made one more last promise to John Reynolds, again, which is revealed in the book what that promise was.
Oh, Jim, this is great. Oh, you must have had such a good time doing this.
I did. The book practically wrote itself because once I began researching these two people, the more I researched, the more fun it became. There are tons of information written about John Reynolds. He was highly respected, admired. He was a great battlefield tactician. He was such a good commander that Abraham Lincoln actually wanted him to be the supreme commander of the Army of the Potomac. Reynolds turned that offer down. He turned Lincoln down because he didn't want to become involved in politics, and he felt that his place was in the field leading his men. And it was leading his men on that July 1st day of 1863 that he was shot and killed by a Confederate soldier. It is my feeling, Alice, that had he taken that job President Lincoln had offered, Reynolds today would be as famous as Robert E. Lee or William Tecumseh Sherman. He was that good a soldier.
Wow. So what are you gonna keep going on this track?
Well, actually, The General and the Lady, A True Story of Civil Love and War, is my second novel. First one I wrote was a pure crime story, fictional detective story called Naked Ambition. And I'm about to publish a third book, which I think will come out early next year. It's another mystery, a crime story. This one is called The Blood Island Brooch. And I hope to see that published next year.
All right, James, I'll be talking to you. Victor Clavizio is pretty well known in some parts as a loan broker with a felony rap sheet who went to jail for conspiring to fraudulently obtain nearly $6 million in mortgage loans. It's the stuff of one salacious read in his book, Seditious.
It's really weird. To make a long story short, I was sitting in federal prison, and I wanted to know how I got there, and I couldn't stop writing it. And before you know it, I had written like 1,000 pages.
How did you wind up in prison?
So I was charged with wire fraud and with bank fraud in 2007 during the mortgage meltdown crisis in our country. I got caught up in all of that. Fast money, bad behavior, lending money to people who didn't deserve it. So I had to lick my wounds for that. So I ended up negotiating a 5-year prison sentence, which I only actually, with good behavior, wound up doing 3. And I came out and I wanted to change my life. So I decided writing might be something that might help.
Were you unfairly wrapped up in something?
No, I was born a knucklehead. I would love to say that I just lost good judgment, but my judgment was clouded from the day I was hatched.
Okay. From the day you were hatched?
Yeah, from the day my father said, "This is my son."
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? It is who I am, and that's I can laugh about it now, but I've corrupted some really good opportunities. I could have been anything, and I decided to be a criminal. If that makes sense.
You talk about the mafia. So are you okay talking about the mafia? I thought if you talked about the mafia.
Yeah, most of those guys are either dead, did their prison time, or it's just not what it used to be. And so my history is I was born into it. So my old man was in the mob, and he raised his sons to be in the mob.
Why would a mother let a father raise their sons to be in the mob?
Well, my mother's an angel, so I can't. And I don't know if she allowed anything. I think she tried to counterpunch us. My dad would give us the bad, and my mom would give us the good. So she would say, "Okay, your dad taught you to be this way, but in reality, the world spins this way, and it's up to you to make a decision." So at some point, I was making my own decisions.
So you take responsibility for whatever you did.
100%. It's the only way.
You didn't hurt anybody. Did you hurt anybody?
No, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a physical person. I've hurt a lot of feelings, and I try to address that in the book. And if you read some of my forward is like 3 pages with apologies. To not only the last name Clavizio is unique, so anyone with the last name is tainted. I have nieces and nephews who are stockbrokers and nurses and homeowners and fathers and mothers, and so they have to live with all that. I have daughters who are stunned, sons who are stunned. So yeah, have to take responsibility for it.
Your family didn't know what was going on?
I don't know if they didn't know when it comes to my nieces and nephews, just like that. But my brothers and I, like I have a brother who's still a mortgage broker today, and he's an amazing human being. And he chose differently. He got to the point where he says, "You know what? I'm not into this." His first arrest cured him. My fourth arrest didn't cure me. That's the way it played out, and I don't even know how to explain it. I do feel for anyone that I hurt, and I try to make amends for that, but I also try to make amends by paying it forward some. I'm a really good guy when it comes to needing my help, or if I think you need it and I can help you, I do it without your asking. So I kind of like overly exercise myself as far as paying it forward. I would love to tell people that you get caught up in some stuff, you still have choices, and they're only your choices. So I think any approach I take will be the approach of, hey, you're going to live to regret it.
All right, Victor, thank you. And we're going to take a quick break, but we're coming right back. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
We're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Glenn Waits, disabled by polio when he was just 2 years old, shares his inspirational story of how he kept the faith and kept going in his book, Inside the Mind of a Disabled and People in General.
It's about my life. What I've done over the years. Being disabled, I barely found, part-time jobs. I do favors for people. I was fixing things, fixing like a tape or something, or change their records to recordings, like a tape or something. I did that for a long time. But then I found other things to do, just volunteer jobs for organizations for disabled. I ran an organization called the Go-Getters. It's an organization for the disabled. What I'm trying to do is encourage people that they can do stuff no matter what. They can do things. And I want people also to turn to Christ if they, if I can encourage people to do that. Most difficult thing sometimes, being able to go places. For a long time, there was no transportation, and I had to be picked up and put in a car and then take me places until the vans came out. I wish I was able to get one of my own, and then I could just hire somebody to drive me around. but but I'm basically living on my own. Thank God for that. Originally, I was trying to write a little speech because my mom had passed away. At first, I started with a speech called A Special Lady, and I started to write a book pertaining to her. But I couldn't find enough information because I didn't know who my family was. I didn't know who my father was. I didn't know anything about him. My parents were teenagers when I was born, so I don't know a lot about that. I recently found out that I have brothers and sisters, but I didn't know that.
Wow.
But one of my friends, she encouraged me to write down the things that my mom taught me. So that's when I started writing.
That's great.
Originally, the book was finished in 2012, but I had nobody to look at it. So in 2019, I decided to send it in, and they told me that it would be a week before they would be able to tell me. But I got shocked because it only took them 2 days. And I got an email back saying my book had been accepted. And I almost fell out of bed.
So now you got a book and it's published. And are you able to promote it? Are you able to tell people about it?
Yeah, well, what I've been doing is putting it on Facebook, putting it out on Instagram, YouTube, and so far Google has covered a lot. I'm trying to find a book club or something where I could promote it even more.
All right, Glenn. If anybody can, you will. Thank you. Lawrence Westdale is an Aleister Crowley fan. Now, he was a British occultist, writer, and practitioner of magic, Magik. He called himself the Beast 666, but really didn't have many followers until after he died in 1947. His books include The Devil's Bible and The Black Books, and this is what inspired Chrysalis, the Aleister Crowley trilogy.
I mean, I'm the hugest movie buff I've ever known, and I love to write. I've done music for a long time, written music, and I had an inkling that I could put a plot together, make it roll, and really it's a sorcery book and a wizard book, and I'm not really into sorcery and wizardry, and I think I nailed it right on the head, and it's something that isn't like you would think wizards from the Druid days, even though there's characters like that. It's something that's modern and very, it just came to me. I think the plot itself just unraveled itself throughout just months of thinking about the different types of things I wanted, and in the end, I had to put it on paper. It is a fabulous. I think I've read thousands of books. A fabulous read. It's interesting, and I think the aspect of using Aleister Crowley as a bad guy really set the tone and how I want to go. So it was fun. It was really fun.
Chrysalis, the Aleister Crowley trilogy.
Yes, I'm writing two more. This Chrysalis is about a man who is obsessed. He's an obsessive man whose goal is to prevent himself from going to the immediate and imminent realm of hell. You know, he knows he's a dark man. He's a historical figure who is head of the occult, and he is into certain things that certain society might not deem very flavorful. So Aleister Crowley was a man who a lot of people follow and look into his writings, I think he created the word magic in its form that he made it. And he was a mage magic. In the book, Aleister Crowley is pent up on opening portals, and he wants to do that by opening up a part of the brain called the pineal. And with that portal exploration, conquer everything he can. He's a real greedy bad guy, and I think that was the fun part. In real life, Aleister Crowley was a historical figure from Britain. He's head of the occult as far as he had a church and a following. A lot of musicians follow him nowadays as far as some of the bands. John Lennon was a big follower, and so was David Bowie. But as far as Crowley goes, yeah, he was very nuanced in some of his teachings, and I think making the Crowley Trilogy has a great tie-in with historical fiction. So that's what I really like. It deals with that in a very good sense. While writing it, I found just through circumstance or coincidence that a lot of the stuff I was writing did have a relation to some of the stuff that goes on. But this is all fiction. I read hundreds of books from Tolstoy down to Stephen King down to even Jane Austen. This is the book of the. It's an action book, exciting as heck. Every single chapter is a different. It could be a miniseries in a second. It is one of the utmost action adventures that I've ever read, and it's dealing with some pretty neat, sprinklings of sci-fi, sprinklings of horror, and suspense and psychological thriller. So I really think that is where it stands. Someone wants to get tripped out. It's a trippy book about this man cooking using potions, which are DMT and other types of illicit hallucinogenics, to power his brain to go into another plane of knowledge. And through that, he's able to open up these mystic portals that have been, around the world for centuries.
Interesting stuff, Lawrence. I'll give you that. Thank you. A commercial truck driver, Kimberly Thompson, is a jack of all trades. She started a t-shirt and apparel company, and now she's written a book inspired by her 9 grandchildren called Granny the Grasshopper.
The inspiration comes from not being able to see them during the pandemic. And when it hit, it was hard for Granny to spend time with her grandchildren. So she just thought about them and just wrote them a story. The name of the book is called Granny the Grasshopper. And the story is about the 9 grandchildren. And she's created the animated characters to go with their nicknames that she's given them. Ladybug, Bumblebee, Firefly, oh my God, Butterfly, just a few names. She's in a circle, and when each one approaches her, she's calling out their nicknames, and she give a brief description to describe each one of them through the characters. Like she says to Ladybug, Ladybug didn't live far on an old rug. Nobody slept there but Granny and Ladybug. So Ladybug is the first one, and she describes that she lives near Ladybug, and Ladybug sleeps with her under a rug. Granny the Grasshopper was caught by surprise looking up in the sky. Her twinkling eyes, she see her baby girl Butterfly. Butterfly, this beautiful character that just flies in the sky. And once she noticed Butterfly, she comes to her as well. And she has the twinkling in her eyes. And when she noticed, Butterfly comes to her Granny. Once they see Granny sit there with a campfire, and each and everyone comes to her one by one, and she calls out their names to them and a brief description of who they are and what they are to her. We have actually spent a lot of time together. They've come and spent weekends with me, and I read the book to them. And one of my favorite parts of the book is towards the end when it says the 2020 pandemic can't keep us apart because of the love in my heart. This coronavirus or this COVID-19 don't stand a chance with God on our team. And that's what I like the most part about the book.
Right, Kimberly. Thank you so much. Finally, music inspired Anna Luz German to write her first sci-fi adventure with Roxy the Warrior in Metal Powerhouse.
I was inspired by Rihanna's album Rated R. I thought it was a decent album, so I decided to write a book about that. I felt that the album had a lot of really good work into it. Some of her songs from that album kind of inspired my book. That album is like a version of my book. It deals with girls trying to escape from an evil empire. They're called the Savants. They are a group of mysterious robots, cyborg superiors who are trying to conquer a mysterious world. There's this main character named Roxy. She's a warrior. She became trapped in a chamber after she dreamed a dream sequence. That's how she became trapped in the chamber. Afterwards, she undergoes a dream test because one of her dreams show vulnerability, like a vulnerable dream. Afterwards, she rejected the test mentally and became forced to submit to the test. At the end of the book, Roxy becomes a slave to her master. There's going to be a sequel to that book.
So how was it writing this book?
It was it was kind of hard, but kind of fun, kind of therapeutic too. I've been promoting it on my social media and on YouTube. People do like the book, by the way. They love it. They think that the book is amazing. They think the book is great. On Instagram, I usually promote my book on Instagram, and on YouTube, I usually like to do like YouTube shorts that are based on my book. I usually write on the YouTube shorts.
Can you give me an example of one that you wrote?
I wrote that my upcoming sequel is gonna be a really great masterpiece, and I hope you all are gonna read it very soon.
All right, Anna Luz, thanks so much. And thanks to all of our authors who joined us and to you, our crazy listeners who join us in real time week after week. We really do appreciate it. And would you believe? This is the last show of the year, Page Publishing Book Club fans. See ya 2021. We'll be back after the new year. Download the podcast at 710WOR.com if you need a shot of Page over the holidays. Enjoy the rest of the year. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini.